Hey guys, it's Kelsey and I'm back with another scrapbooking process video playing with some more Scrapbook Your Joy goodies. So this of course is Vickie Boutin's Wildflower and Honey collection and we are getting to the end of it. So I'm trying to be a little bit more creative about how I can get the rest of what I have used up. I really, honestly, this page, there's a lot of pink things left on the sticker sheet. So I was really hoping I could do a more pink themed layout. So I started with this dark navy and completely just didn't pull in any pink. So I guess the pink layout will have to come later. I started with this really dark navy and I started flipping through the 6x8 paper pad and found this really cool chevron that I haven't used yet, and I thought it would be really cool to kind of pull in specific colors from the chevron, and since I have this navy background and my photo is very blue and green, I thought I could maybe select just the blue and green arrows from this chevron. In my mind I'm still thinking I can pull in pink and it'll just be a blue and pink layout, but the more I get going it becomes a more blue and green layout, and then it becomes a more blue, green, and yellow layout, and then yeah, pink never enters the page. But it comes together pretty cool. I just thought it was an interesting process how I got there. I really like this idea of separating the different chevrons. It's multicolored, so you can have this whole rainbow chevron, but it is very usable in specific strips if you want to cut apart and use it in a monochromatic way. So that's really cool. I thought about just using the more bluey green arrows, but there's this whole chunk of yellow at the bottom of the chevron, so I was like, oh, I can bring in yellow too, because it's still kind of greenish. And if you look in the middle of this crater of the photos, the grass looks a little yellow in the middle, so I thought it would still go. So this is on top of Diamond Head Crater in Honolulu, Hawaii. So we hiked from the middle of it all the way up to the highest peak, so this is kind of looking down into it. So I pieced these two photos together so you can kind of see the entire crater. It overlaps a little bit, like you can see Coco Head in the background in both photos, so that kind of gives you a reference of where one photo drops off and the other picks up. But I'm just going through scraps. I thought it'd be cool to bring in some corner rounding. I wanted to bring in some more blue and more yellow since that's the colors I've kind of introduced with the chevron, so I'm just using my corner rounder just to make my layers a little bit different, a little more interesting. So you see that's what I'm doing there. My plan is to make this light blue layer look like it stretches across this entire horizontal piece and look like it mats both of these photos. So I have a scrap of this more yellowy paper that I'm just going to make an additional layer to cover that gap. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Just had to be a little bit creative since I didn't have that pattern paper in a larger chunk. So right now I'm just building my layers, and in my mind I just know these chevrons have to point to something important. I feel like right now it's just pointing down to the photos, but there's really no reason for it. I really want it centered on the right side of the page since the chevron does look like it runs off the page. So in my mind I'm just thinking I will have an embellishment cluster or a title or something important there, so it makes sense that the arrow is directing your line of sight to that specific spot. But right now I'm just trying to fill my layers out a little more. I had a scrap of this yellow, and since I did introduce the yellow with these chevron arrows, I figured I might as well put some more yellow in my layers. Billy's dreaming right now and is like whining in his sleep. Billy! Sorry about that. So I'm just going to glue all of this down and then we will get going. So that's kind of where my layers start, and then you'll see me kind of build an embellishment cluster at the bottom of the chevron. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. Completely decided just to not go the pink route since I started pulling in all this yellow. So we'll revisit that another time. But yeah, just going to get all this glued down and then we can continue. I don't have a whole lot left, so I'm kind of curious to see how many more layouts I will get out of this. It'll be interesting. I think as of right now, I have five 12 by 12s left, so we'll see. Am I going to glue the chevrons down yet? I don't know. I know I want a gap between the yellow and the green. I think that looks cool and accentuates that they're fussy cut and not one big chunk of paper. But it's kind of bothering me that the bottom of the chevron is running onto the paper layers. But in the end, I know I'm going to put something down there anyways, so it's going to be covered, so it doesn't really matter. I have these scraps of the hearts that are the blues, so I thought that would be really good on this page too, but I ended up not pulling that in either. I'm just going through scraps trying to figure out something, though. I just want more layers. I want something to fill the gap, but I can't think of anything as far as the paper goes, so I decided to look more towards the embellishment to continue the page. But I know that these layers are going to be at the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and get them glued down. There we go. I have this blue vase from the die cut set, and I have this sunflower floral cluster on the flat sticker sheet, so I thought it would be really cool to make it look like it's a flower arrangement. So I'm popping the sticker up on some foam, and I'm going to have that sit above the little vase like that, so it looks like it's a little flower jar. So I think that's pretty cute, and that's kind of where I'm going to start my embellishment cluster. But I'm going to go ahead and get the chevrons stuck down. I was playing with how high or low I wanted them, but in the end it really doesn't matter. I was bothering me that the arrows were touching those layers, but the flower is going to sit over it anyways, so it doesn't matter. I know I'm going to have that sitting there. But now it makes more sense that that chevron is directing your eye there, because there's actually something sitting there. So I'm just going to build my cluster based around that flower jar just so that, you know, it makes sense that that's a focal point. But there is some orange in the sunflower, so I was like, you know what, let's pull some orange in too. So this went from a blue layout to a blue and green layout to blue, green, and yellow layout, and now there's orange in here too. So I don't know what's happened, but I like it. I did pull in this blue ampersand paper clip, so I think that will look cute kind of tucked up from behind this jar. I'm just trying to build out a little more with some more clustery things. So there's that, and then I do have this cut apart that has the rainbow sentiments on it, so I'm cutting them into individual strips. I think I'll use them easier that way. So I'm just going to make them little banners and use those as well. I thought about just starting with one and having it in a cluster with this flower, so I thought maybe I'll do this the story here. But then I didn't like how the yellow was on top of the yellow, so I chose to switch it out with a different one. So you'll see that in a minute. I know this is going to be centered underneath the chevron though, so I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece down with the paper clip and the sunflower. There we go. Oh yeah, to take the foam off. I really enjoyed doing that this month too, though, popping a few of the embellishments up on some foam just to add a little bit of dimension. I think that looks really fun. So I think that makes a big difference having that flower piece popped up. But it was just bothering me having that yellow banner go over this yellow layer to the left. So I was toying with if I wanted to switch it out with the blue or the green sentiment. I ended up going with green. So I just turned that into a banner as well. It just says, "This happened." So that's going to layer on top of the flower jar. So little by little, just trying to cluster and build more things. So. And then I decide, I'm like, what am I going to say about this page? I mean, I've already kind of done a few pages about Diamond Head Crater. I've already kind of talked about my experience with it. And then I was like, well, I haven't really talked about the actual crater itself as far as like when it was formed or how tall it is and that kind of thing. So I figured if I went down that route, a ruler would make sense, because I'm kind of giving you numeral stats about the crater, so I thought a ruler made sense, so that's going to be tucked in there. I also have that record because I decided I am going to pull in some more orange. So then I took my scrap of orange and decided I would pull that in by doing a few punches. So I did a little circular scallop punch around that, just to pull the orange in a little more, because the word record and that orange looked very lonely by itself. It's as the only orange thing on the page. So using that scrap of orange and punching a few things to layer in different areas, I think will help balance that out a little bit. I'll go back and punch something else out of that orange scrap piece of paper to pull somewhere else too, just so it really looks balanced across the page. So I did pull in the orange butterfly. That makes a little bit more sense. This little florally squig, which is the same kind of floral leafy pattern that's in the sunflower cluster. So I'm just starting something down there by trying to mimic elements that are in my bigger cluster, if that makes sense. So I like how that's layering up. I knew I needed something across the page because right now everything is in that one section where that big chevron is, and I just wanted something somewhere else. So that really helps having that cluster down there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. I wanted to bring in another one of those little colorful sentiments, so I just chose the blue here and now and cut that into a banner as well. So that's going to all get layered together. I'm glad I got another butterfly used up, another orange element, just so that's balanced across the photo and across the page. And then you can see where I moved the yellow, the story. I thought about maybe putting it in the upper left-hand corner, but it seemed like it was too disconnected from everything else on the page. So I thought maybe if I pulled it closer to the chevron and I would have my journaling going from there down to the bottom cluster, maybe that would make more sense. But it still looked like it was kind of sticking out weird, and I didn't think I had that much to say about it, so I didn't need that much space. So I took it off for a second. I know I want to use it in a third cluster somewhere, but I did go to Jennifer's little pack of die cut goodies and pulled out a little decorative piece. I just wanted a little something, a little extra decorative piece along this top area. So pulled in this little white detail and glued that down. I think that looks really sweet. And now I'm thinking maybe I'll just do the story up on the upper right hand corner instead as part of the chevron cluster. And I actually really like that. Even though it's yellow on yellow, it doesn't look as, I don't know. For some reason, that yellow on yellow doesn't bother me as much as the yellow on top of the yellow pattern paper where it was before. So it's going there, and then I'm just going to do my journaling right on the chevron with this white pen. I do have to go over it twice, though it actually shows up, but you can read it really well in person. It just says, Diamond Head was formed 300,000 years ago and ascends 560 feet, just so I had a little bit of details. That along with the other page that will be next to it with more stats and more details about this crater, I think will give me all the information you need. So I just wanted to add that little detail there. And I kind of thought I was done. I wanted a little bit more embellishment, so you'll see me add a couple more things. And then I really think the page is done, so I turn off the camera and then I turn it back on to add a little something else. So you'll see this kind of was a process of a page, slowly building it to the point where I felt happy with it. But I have these cute little freckled font triangle enamel shapes, and I thought the orange would look really cute coming out from around this little ampersand circular piece and just pulling orange into one more spot. So I really liked that. But you can see the rest of that enamel shape sheet has navy and aqua and green, which are all colors in the photo. And I thought I was done at this point, other than I added this one circle here, but it was bothering me how blank this open quadrant was in the upper left hand corner. So here I'm back, and I decided I would just sprinkle all the rest of these triangle enamel dots along the diagonal from that corner towards my big embellishment cluster. So I think that looks pretty cool. You don't have to add that if you don't end up liking how this looks, but I've had these triangle enamel shapes in my stash for a long time, and with using the orange ones in the one cluster and the rest of the colors going, I thought it would just make sense to go ahead and get them on the page, and I kind of like how fun it looks having them trickle out from that cluster towards the empty space. So here are the close-ups. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow with your next video a day. If you would like any of these products, I will link all of Scrapbook Your Joy stuff in the description. Bye.